Media reports citing anonymous sources say President Trump is preparing to fire FBI Director Kash Patel. Patel told the Epoch Times yesterday he was with the president in the Oval Office when they heard about the reports.
It was pretty comical because the president and I were both discussing law enforcement operations across the country with our team, the attorney general and other members of the department. And we were made aware that there was reporting that I was being terminated. And the president laughed and he said, "What are they talking about? Kash is doing a great job."
Patel was instrumental in disproving the narrative that Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 presidential election. He's been a close ally of the president since then. In a 2023 book, Patel accused former FBI Director James Comey of weaponizing federal law enforcement against Trump and said he should face charges. During this week's interview, Patel was asked about the case against Comey that a federal judge recently tossed.
The judicial process can make whatever determination it wants, but we, the FBI, and our partners at the DOJ have numerous options to proceed, and we're executing on all those options. So we're not done.
NTD News will air the Epoch Times full interview, and that is an exclusive interview with Patel this weekend. It premieres Sunday, November 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. And in that interview, FBI Director Kash Patel told the Epoch Times that the FBI is following the money to map out the entire Antifa network. That's after President Trump's September executive order designating the group as a domestic terrorist organization. Joining us for Insight is Epoch Times reporter Darlene Sanchez. Darlene, good to have you with us today. Did Patel talk about any specific financial trails or funding sources that could expose the group's operations?
You know, I think there's been talk about this for quite some time. What Kash said was that they intend to, I guess, use the banking system, the Treasury Department, to go into these affiliated groups here in the United States and start following the money to see exactly, where's the funding coming from, just to map it out, basically, to get a better picture of how all this money is being poured into some of these, protests where Antifa shows up, of course. I think that that's important because, there's been talk for quite some time now about, how is this all organized and why is it suddenly, it's like, all of a sudden there's a huge protest, all these people show up and they have signs that appear to be, professionally made. They have supplies. They even have runners and people there, supporting their activities.
And how does the recent executive order from the president change the FBI's approach to Antifa?
Yes. Well, what Director Patel said was that it gives them a lot more leeway, more tools than they would normally have because they're able to go in and work with partner organizations to get more intelligence. He didn't specifically say, for example, he could work with the CIA, but it sounded like, that he would have more resources there for him to get in there and try to trace down the money. Of course, that's the main thing with these organizations, to try to find out what the root cause is and where the money's coming from.
And Antifa itself, though it is loosely organized, has objective ties to communism. Could you lay those out for us?
Yes, actually, I did a little bit of research and a story about Antifa's ties overseas. And, there was talk, and indeed, President Trump did designate some of the Antifa groups or Antifa affiliated groups overseas as foreign terrorist organizations. And basically what this was is Antifa started out, as just as it says, anti-fascist, to oppose Nazi Germany. But that definition has, of course, changed greatly. Now these groups, this loose organization of groups overseas and here domestically, they go after whatever they perceive as, a fascist organization. Basically, anybody that has an ideology that opposes their own or is different from their own, they try to shut them down with sometimes violence. Like for example, Charlie Charlie Kirk, programs that are being held at some of these universities. Antifa has showed up at those to try to stop them from talking, to dissuade people from attending.
Now, President Trump recently said people who don't love America or contribute positively to it are not welcome here. Do you see the designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization and the FBI's actions on Antifa as an effort to rid the nation of communist elements?
I think that, President Trump has come out and, for example, there's been political candidates, for example, New York's mayor, and he has actually said, instead of a socialist, he says he's a communist. So I think President Trump is very aware that there is, socialist / communist elements out there working to infiltrate the United States and to wage an ideological battle, for the soul of America. I think he's very aware of that from what I've seen on his posts.
Now, what timeline are you expecting in terms of milestones or next actions coming from the FBI on this particular Antifa front?
Well, what Director Patel said was that we could probably expect more investigations to be announced in 2026, and also, potential prosecutions. The way he talked, it sounded to me like that they would be announcing further prosecution next year.
Is there anything from your research and investigation, which I know is broad-ranging, and also from your reporting on Texas, that you think would be valuable to bring to the public debate on this aspect of cracking down on and investigating Antifa activities?
Well, I think if you look at what's happening now with a lot of these protests, and some of them, of course, have turned violent, like with the one at the ICE detention facility in Texas that resulted in one officer being shot in the neck. Luckily, he, survived that. But I think, what people need to understand is these groups, a lot of them appear to be organized online. They have resources online that they can actually use and plug into. Some of these Antifa organizations overseas have actually donated to the defense of, alleged Antifa members involved in, for example, the Texas attack on the ICE facility there. So I think people need to understand that this is more than just an ideology. It is definitely it's not a grassroots thing. It is an organization that is here to disrupt the United States efforts to, to actually get some of these immigrants removed from the United States that are here illegally. President Trump, his plan to remove illegal immigrants. That's what seems to be the basis of this protest right now.
And the organization itself has many other objectives as well, which no doubt may be in opposition to the president's agenda, but we'll have more chances to explore those at a later date. Thank you so much for your insights today, Darlene Sanchez. Good to speak with you.
Thank you.